Hi, it's Mike with AskTractorMike.com. I have a viewer letter today, and this is one of those letters that I want to answer, and then I want to get your opinion. It comes from Claude, and Claude has found what's possibly a really great deal on a tractor, but maybe not. So I'm asking you, after the end of this video, put your comments down below about what your experience has been and what you think about this situation. Now, what's happened with Claude, I'm going to read his letter today. He may have found the greatest deal ever on a used tractor. He says, "Hi Mike, would you buy a tractor with 33 hours on it, but it's 9 years old? No warranty. How on earth do I come up with a value on a machine like this?" Great question, Claude. I'm going to give you 5 things today to look at to determine if you really need to buy this tractor. And I'm going to ask my viewers, number one, if you had a tractor with 9 years old with 33 hours on it, what would you do? How much would you want to discount it off a new one in order to buy it? And number two, have you had an experience like this where maybe you bought something, a car with stupid low miles that was old, and what was your experience? Was it a money pit that you just kept spending money on forever, or did it turn out to be a whale of a deal? And I'm going to give you my opinion today. Now, what we don't know from Claude, and what I guess somewhat matters, but I'm not going to worry about it in this situation, is what brand of tractor it is and what size of tractor it is. We just know it's 9 years old, so it would have been built in 2012, around in that era, and it's got 33 hours on it. And I don't know what happened in this situation. Could have been a person owned it and died, and it got tied up in probate court or something like that, or maybe someone went through bankruptcy, or it's been in litigation, or maybe just somebody bought a tractor they thought they needed, it had all kinds of money, and never used it, and it just sat, and now they're gone and somebody else wants to sell it. Don't know the situation, but we're going to talk today about 5 things I would look for if I were looking at this tractor that Claude's looking at, and would it be a good deal. Number one, first thing, and this is most important, does it really only have 33 hours on it? Because, believe it or not, a common practice in the ag equipment business when an engine is rebuilt in a tractor is to order a new hour meter. And you can, I think with all brands, you can order a new hour meter with 0 hours on it, put it right in the tractor and run it legally. Now, if you get a new speedometer, odometer in a car, you're in big trouble there if you're a car dealer. But on a tractor, that happens. If the engine is rebuilt, a lot of times they'll get a new hour meter with 0 hours and put that on, and then they'll put somewhere a marking somewhere with a paint pencil, replace that, 4,000 hours or whatever, and so you know how many hours on the new engine. Now, is that ethical? I'm not going to argue that today, but that's pretty common in the ag business, and so possibly this tractor had a lot of hours on it, and somebody rebuilt the engine, they ordered a new hour meter, plopped in it, put 33 hours on it, and now it's for sale. Now, the best way to tell that is look at the other components on the tractor and see if you've got play in the front steering, or I think you'd know by looking at it, but look around it and make sure that odometer wasn't, or hour meter wasn't replaced at some point, because that does happen. So number one, we want to ensure that it's really only got 33 original hours on it. Number two, and this is pretty important, where was it stored? Has it been stored inside all these years? In which case, it probably looks like a new tractor. If it's been outside all these years, the paint's probably faded, and it may oxidize to the point where you can't bring it back to life. And a lot of people don't care on a tractor. They store their tractors outside anyway, and they're built to be stored outside. But is the seat cracked? You're going to have to buy a new seat for it. What do the other components look like? So that's the number 2 thing I would look at. And number 3, and this goes right along with number 2, look at the tires. I don't know if anybody's priced tires for tractors lately, but they've gone through the roof. They're expensive. So if you got to replace the back and the front tires on this tractor, that's going to be a major expense. And if it's been stored outside, there's a good possibility they're weather cracked. They may have a lot of tread on them, but they may be weather cracked and they may fall apart on you someday. So I would plan, if it's been stored outside, to budget for new tires and figure that into what you offer for the tractor. And one thing to remember on tires, occasionally you'll find a tractor with kind of an odd size tire on it. and it's not often, but occasionally you'll find like a special order tire. And if it's a four-wheel drive tractor, remember you want to put the exact same tires back on it that came off of it, because there are ratios in the four-wheel drive. And if you're engaged in four-wheel drive and you've got the wrong tires on it, your front tires could be running slower than the back tires, and your tractor will try to dig. Of course, they can't run the same speed on both the front and the back like they can on a pickup because they're different sizes. But on every four-wheel drive tractor I've ever known, the front tires run just a little faster than the back tires, and so they're pulling the tractor forward in four-wheel drive. But if you put different size tires on it, it's possible the front tires will run slower and they'll dig, and you don't want that. So that's number 3, what condition are the tires? Number 4, and this is real important, is what condition is the fuel system in? This is where I see probably as much danger or more than on the tires. If it's got a metal tank, is there rust in it? If it's got one of those, what is that, polyurethane or plastic, whatever that compound is, if it's got a plastic tank, is it starting to flake off inside just because it's been sitting all these years? Does it have fuel in it? What's the fuel filter look like? And if it were me, I think I would take the somewhere where I could get to, take the fuel line off and let a little bit of fuel drain out. And if it's got no fuel in it, take some fuel with me and fill it up just a little bit, and then let it drain out in a container and see if there's chunks of stuff coming out. And if there's rust or chunks of stuff coming out, I mean, your fuel filter will catch that, but you get enough of it to plug things up, and you might be fighting that forever. And that's a danger. You know, if I were trying to buy the tractor, I would be thinking about what would it cost to put a new fuel tank on it. So I start from scratch. You know, maybe I want to replace the fuel lines. And then you get into the injector system. And an injector pump rebuild is $1,200 to $1,500, maybe $2,000. I don't know what it costs today, but I do know it's expensive. And so you don't want that. And if that thing's been sitting long enough, it does not take much rust in the fuel injection system, and you've got a major problem that you're going to have a rebuild on. So that's the number 4 thing I'm thinking about, is the fuel system. And finally today, the number 5 thing I'm going to be thinking about is the wiring system. And I would be real meticulous about going around and finding all the wires in that tractor, make sure we don't have any rodent damage, because that's a real expensive thing to repair. Make sure all the lights work and the turn signals and the flashers. Make sure everything starts and runs. Run everything on that thing. If it's got a shift on the go 2 speed, activate it to make sure there's all the wiring is there. Because once you get started into rodent damage on a tractor, it can get real ugly real fast. So Claude, I would take a chance on something like that. You know, if it was 30 years and it had 33 hours on it, I'd be really scared. You know, 9 years is not all that. What is this, 2021? It's a you know, a 2012 tractor. That's not all that old, but I would plan on probably replacing the fuel tank and the tires and find out how much that's going to cost me, and then add that into what I'm giving for it. Is it's still a good deal at that price. Now, one real advantage you got by going with a 2012 tractor, that's probably before Tier 4 came in. You don't have all that pollution garbage on there that most of you hate. And so you'd have a good tractor if you put a little bit of money into it. Probably last you a long time. So what do you think? Have you ever bought something, you had a barn find, it had no hours on it, or a car and it had no miles on it? Was it a good deal or was it a bad deal? And what would you put in a tractor like this? How much would you discount it for being that old with that a few hours? Now, trying to determine a value for this is going to be the topic of my next video. And that's tough, but I'm going to give you some kind of insider tips from me being in the tractor business for a few years. It'll kind of get you in the ballpark, but it's really hard to know what something like that's worth. But we'll talk about that in the next video. I appreciate you watching my videos. If you'd like to subscribe to my YouTube channel, I'd be honored. Click the mic face icon and check the bell so you're notified when I post future videos. Here's a link to my website and the Tractor Fun Store with great gift ideas and cool things for the tractor owner that help support my YouTube channel. Here's another video you might want to watch. Thanks for watching.